Hey guys, it's Lisa. Welcome to Banning, Panning and Beyond. I've decided to do part 2 of my quarterly check-in. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone who reached out to me and reassured me from my last video. So as you would be able to tell, I was having a pretty down time, and the last couple of days have still been pretty emotional, but I'm getting there. I did spend a good 6 hours working out in the yard with my husband yesterday, so I think just having the fresh air and that physical activity was really good for my state of mind. So hopefully back to my usual self. So I guess I should just touch back on where I was sort of trying to go with the last video and do a finish off. So hopefully this video won't be too long, but basically I have felt the change in myself, really moving from just spending uncontrollably and having that constant drive to keep up with all the new releases. I really did have that fear of missing out. So I, like I said, I did work. It took me a good 6 months to get to the point where I felt I was ready. I wasn't overly confident that I was going to handle it real well, because it was kind of like I just cut myself off from the spending. But I think that in itself, it's that that fear that holds you back, and once you've actually made the decision and you've taken that step, it's almost like a relief. And I know that plenty of other people that are on no buys have sort of described that feeling, just where there's no having to agonize over will I or won't I, feeling guilty, can I justify it in my mind. It's just so much simpler just to say, I can't, I'm on a no buy, don't worry about it. And and it has been a lot easier. So I think the decision to unfollow a lot of accounts, which I've mentioned in the past, has made a big difference for me. The community that is now surrounding me on social media, that's more focused on the panning and the no buys and the low buys. You feel like you're a part of something, you don't feel alone, and it has just changed my mindset to really stay focused on the products that I've got, which I've been thoroughly enjoying going through. I've mentioned in the last video about the sheer amount of products that I own that I have not even touched yet. So while I'm so focused on those, I really don't feel like I'm missing out at all, but not exposing myself to the new releases as well. Like, obviously I can't completely cut myself off. People do post, especially when they're on low buys. Some people will still go and buy one of the new release palettes, or whether it be eyeshadow, or be a blush palette, highlighter palette, whatever. They seem to be the main things that come up. But I mean, yeah, you can't completely cut yourself off from being exposed to that, but I have found that I'm sort of like, yeah, it's nice, but I don't really need it. And it has been replaced with that feeling of, not only do I not need it, but I don't really want it. I don't want to be overwhelmed with any more stuff in my collection. No more guilt at feeling like it's another thing I've spent money on that's just sitting there, not getting used. So I'm also finding that initially I was writing down things for my wish list, which is a recommendation. People say, write it down and then see how you feel, whether you still want it in a month, or you do get it for a birthday or something like that. And I did start out like that, but now I'm kind of feeling like, well, if you really love something that much, you shouldn't have to write it down. And if it does stay in your mind, then you won't forget about it. Whereas now I'm finding like, oh, what were those few things that sort of grabbed my attention that I ordinarily, prior to my no-buy, would have just bought then and there. Yeah, and there's not really anything that I can recall that's come up in the last month or so. Like some things I've gotten, as you know, for Valentine's Day. I got some gifts from my husband, and I know that I've got Mother's Day gifts put aside, and you know, and I'll get them, and that's fine. But for Mother's Day from my kids, I've already sort of spoken to them about getting some wireless earplugs or earphones. So you know, the little Apple earpods, I think they're called. Not even too sure, but I really want to start getting back into my exercise again, and I would love to be able to have those. I'm not getting tangled up in and having to carry the phone on my body. I've got an old stereo system at home where it doesn't have Bluetooth, and the old converter, I can't remember, but I've got an iPhone 6, I think. You can tell that none of that really means that much to me, but I'd have the adapter from the old style plug for the stereo over to the phone, and the cables eventually deteriorate and you can't get them anymore. So it's either go buy a new stereo, which would be a lot more dearer than getting some headphones. So, and I thought, you know, that sort of stood out to me, that it's the first time ever that I've actually, I think in a long time, I shouldn't say ever, but in years, that I've asked for something from one of my kids that wasn't makeup related. So that in itself is a show of a change of mindset, whereas before I would find any excuse to get new makeup given to me. So yeah, I think definitely on a different path now, and feeling really good about it. Obviously there's other shitty stuff going on in life, not just for me but for everybody right now, and we've all got our own personal struggles. So but I do believe that if I hadn't started this no-buy, that I would have really struggled to not buy stuff, and I may or may not have gone ahead and bought at least a few things. Only since my last video, I did find myself one night actually scrolling through and building carts, and I, you know, and it wasn't for makeup, it was for some skincare, and they are things that I know that I will be needing in the near future. So and it was okay. All I was doing was basically finding the best price I could. I was looking at different websites where I could get them from, comparing, like, you know, whether or not I had to pay shipping and that sort of thing, but not the usual stuff that before I would have just been looking at all the new releases all the time. And, you know, and I have a bit of a joke, like, you know, with friends and stuff sometimes, that it was like, yes, I want it, but it's not that same driving desire that I used to have, where it was just I wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it. And I have always had the philosophy, like, I've always hated window shopping in the past, because if I saw something and I wanted it, I wouldn't be able to stop thinking about it, and it would bug me until I actually bought the thing. Whereas I feel kind of now like ignorance is bliss, and if I don't know about it, I can't want it, I can't be tempted, I can't feel bad about not buying it, I don't feel that missing out anymore. So I know that it's still early in my no-buy and that things can change, but I really do think that for now I'm safe. I've got the protection of being on a no-buy. The scariest thing will be for me in 9 months' time, if I decide to come off my no-buy. I may still stay on it if things are going well, or I may go onto a low-buy, but still with quite strict restrictions. But that's a fair way away. But I still like to sort of tell you where I'm thinking at this point in time, so that, as we all know, we change our minds, and circumstances change in our lives as well. So we'll see how I feel at the 6-month mark, and the 9-month mark, and then at the 12-month mark. So it's like I said, it's not like I'm holding myself to it. I'm just expressing how I feel at this moment in time. That was the whole point of documenting the no-buy, to see the different stages that I go through, and hoping that other people that might be going through it at the same can sort of maybe relate, feel reassured to how they're feeling, or if they notice that they're changing their minds. It's just all part of the process. So yeah, so I know this hasn't been a very exciting update. Not a lot has really changed other than my mini breakdown last video, which was not makeup related. So it's not that the no-buy is causing me stress. If anything, like I said, it's actually really it's really helped me. So yeah, anyway, thank you. I am gonna leave it there. Like I said, there's really wasn't much more for me to say, but I will show you the look that I've done today. Get up nice and close. I've got my ring light on, plus I've got all my blinds up, so you're getting plenty of light coming in from the window. It's just a really good time of day for that to be coming in. So I'm a bit distracted. My husband's right outside in the garden in front of me working, so I'm a bit conscious that he's looking in at me while I'm talking to the camera. So but yeah, so I'm really happy today. I feel like I've got a bit of a sunset eye on, and you'll notice I've got lipstick on. So my lips are getting there. They're still not perfect. Yeah, if I got really close, you'd be able to see that I've still got a lot of dry skin around the edges, and I can't get a very sharp line with my lip liner, but I just wanted to finish the look off, and they are feeling pretty healthy. Well, a lot healthier than what they were anyway. And yeah, so I put a lipstick on that wasn't a liquid lip. It's a nice creamy lipstick, so it's not going to dry them out. So anyway, so look, I'll leave it there, and thanks again for joining me. Thank you for your support. Thank you to everyone that, like I said, reached out and reassured me. And yeah, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.